Marcus stared at his reflection in the school gymnasium's dim bathroom mirror, adjusting his tie for the third time. The father-daughter dance was already underway. He could hear the muffled music and laughter through the thin walls. His daughter Emma should have been here beside him, smoothing down her pink dress, reminding him not to step on her toes. Instead, she was 3 states away with her mother, living a life he was no longer part of. But he'd bought the tickets months ago, back when weekend visits still felt permanent. Back when he believed some promises were unbreakable. Tonight, he would dance alone in a room full of fathers and daughters, carrying the weight of an empty hand and a heart that hadn't learned how to let go. Before we dive in, make sure to hit subscribe and leave a comment. Where in the world are you watching from? The gymnasium smelled like industrial disinfectant and someone's attempt to mask it with vanilla air freshener. Marcus Chen pushed through the heavy double doors, his dress shoes squeaking against the polished floor. Paper streamers in pastel pink and lavender hung from the basketball hoops, transforming Jefferson Elementary's athletic space into something that was supposed to feel magical. He shouldn't have come. The thought hit him as he watched a father spin his giggling daughter under the makeshift disco ball, her tulle skirt blooming like a flower. Around them, other fathers knelt to tie loose shoelaces, steadied wobbling daughters in their first heels, captured photos with phones held at awkward angles. Marcus stood in the doorway, his hands empty. Marcus? Marcus Chen? He turned to find Janet Holloway approaching, her smile bright but cautious. She was one of the PTA mothers, the kind who remembered everyone's name and organized the bake sales with military precision. "I wasn't sure you'd make it," she said, her eyes doing that quick, sympathetic scan that people gave him now, looking for Emma, finding only him. "Yeah, well," he shrugged, jamming his hands into his pants pockets. "Already had the tickets." Janet's smile faltered for just a moment. "How are you holding up? With everything?" Everything. As if his daughter moving across the country was weather. As if his ex-wife's new job in Portland was a natural disaster that had simply happened to him rather than a choice that had carved his life in half. "Fine," he said. "Good." The DJ teenager with purple hair and too much confidence announced the next song would be Beauty and the Beast. A collective awe rose from the crowd as fathers and daughters moved onto the dance floor, the little girls placing their feet on top of their father's shoes. Marcus remembered teaching Emma that move when she was 4, in their old kitchen while Sarah cooked dinner. Emma had insisted on wearing her Halloween tiara, the plastic diamonds catching the overhead light as she declared herself a real princess. He could still feel the weight of her small hands in his, the way she'd throw her head back and laugh when he spun her too fast. "You know," Janet said, lowering her voice, "there are a few other single fathers here tonight. Jim Patterson's wife is working, and Rick Hernandez—" "I'm good," Marcus said, perhaps too quickly. "Really?" But Janet was persistent in the way that kind people often were. "There's also Maya Rodriguez is here with her grandfather. Her father's deployed overseas. Sweet girl. She's been sitting by herself most of the evening." Marcus followed Janet's gaze to a corner table where a girl of maybe 8 sat alone, her chin propped on her hands. She wore a dress that was slightly too big for her, navy blue with small silver stars. Her dark hair was pulled back in a careful bun that was starting to come loose. "Where's her grandfather?" "Bathroom, I think. He's been gone for a while. Maya's shy, doesn't really know the other kids yet. They just moved here from San Antonio." The girl Maya was watching the dancing fathers and daughters with an expression Marcus recognized. It was the same look Emma got when she pressed her face against the window of toy stores, wanting something she couldn't have. "Anyway," Janet continued, "I should get back to the refreshment table. Help yourself to punch. And Marcus, I'm glad you came." She squeezed his arm before walking away, leaving him standing at the edge of the dance floor like a man at the shore, afraid to get his feet wet. The song ended, and couples moved off the floor, laughing and adjusting corsages. A new song began, something contemporary that made the younger daughters bounce with excitement. Marcus watched Maya's grandfather return from wherever he'd been, moving slowly with a walking cane. The old man was thin, wearing a suit that hung loose on his frame, and when he sat down next to Maya, she leaned into him immediately. They looked tired. Both of them. Marcus found himself walking toward their table before he'd made a conscious decision to do so. Maya looked up as he approached, her eyes wide and cautious. "Hi," he said, feeling suddenly foolish. "I'm Marcus. Are you Maya?" She nodded without speaking. Her grandfather extended a weathered hand. "Roberto Rodriguez. And yes, this is my granddaughter, Maya." His accent was soft, each word carefully chosen. Marcus could see where Maya got her careful reserve. "I heard you're new to town," Marcus said, sitting down in the empty chair across from them. "How are you liking it so far?" Maya glanced at her grandfather before answering. "It's okay. Different." "Different how?" "Colder," she said simply. "And there's no Whataburger." Marcus laughed, the first genuine sound he'd made all evening. "That's true, but we have other things. Good pizza. A decent park with a really long slide." "Maya loves slides," Roberto said, his voice carrying a slight wheeze. "Back home, I used to take her to Brackenridge Park every Sunday after church." "Used to?" Marcus asked gently. Roberto's smile was tired. "These old legs don't move like they used to. The doctors say I need to take it easy for a while." Maya's hand found her grandfather's small fingers intertwining with weathered ones. The gesture was so automatic, so protective, that Marcus felt something tighten in his chest. "My daughter Emma loves slides too," he found himself saying. "She'd spend hours going down the same one over and over. Drive me crazy, but she was happy." "Where is Emma tonight?" Maya asked. The question was innocent, curious. Marcus felt Roberto's eyes on him, understanding passing between the two men without words. "She's with her mom," Marcus said. "In Portland. That's pretty far away." Maya nodded, as if this made perfect sense. "My dad's far away too. But he sends me pictures." She pulled a phone from a small purse, showing Marcus the screen. A man in military fatigues smiled back at him, his arm around a woman who looked like an older version of Maya. "That's my mom and dad," Maya said. "Before." "Before what?" Maya looked at her grandfather, who nodded slightly. "Before Mom got sick," she said matter-of-factly. "She's in heaven now. And Dad's deployed. So I live with Abuelo." The casual way she said it, the practiced cadence of a child who'd learned to explain her world to adults, made Marcus's throat tight. "I'm sorry," he said. "It's okay. Abuelo takes good care of me. And Dad calls every week when he can." Roberto squeezed her hand. "Maya's the one taking care of me, really." "She's very grown up." Too grown up, Marcus thought, watching the way Maya automatically straightened her grandfather's napkin, the way she kept one eye on him even while talking. The DJ announced a slow song, "The Way You Look Tonight," and the dance floor filled again with swaying couples. Maya watched them with that same wistful expression. "Do you want to dance?" Marcus asked suddenly. Maya blinked. "With you? If you want to." "I mean, if it's okay with your grandfather," Roberto smiled. "I think that would be very nice." Maya looked between them, uncertain. "But I don't really know how to dance." "Not like that." "That's okay," Marcus said, standing and offering his hand. "I'll teach you. It's not hard." Maya took his hand, her palm warm and small in his. Roberto watched them walk to the dance floor, his expression soft with something like relief. "Okay," Marcus said, stopping near the edge of the dancing couples. "First, put your left hand on my shoulder, like this." He guided her hand into position. "And I'll hold your right hand. Don't worry about your feet, just follow me." They began to move, slowly, Marcus keeping his steps small so Maya could follow. She was concentrating hard, her tongue poking out slightly as she watched their feet. "Look up," Marcus said gently. "Trust your feet to follow. Look at me." Maya raised her eyes, and Marcus was struck by how solemn she was. 8 years old, and carrying weight that should have belonged to adults. "My dad taught me to dance," she said as they swayed. "Before he left, he said every girl should know how to dance with her father." "He sounds like a smart man." "He is. He knows about helicopters and fixing things and making really good scrambled eggs." Those are important skills. Maya smiled, the first real smile Marcus had seen from her. Do you know about helicopters? Not really. But I know about computers and making terrible coffee and the best places to get ice cream in town. Ice cream's good. They danced in silence for a moment, moving slowly among the other couples. Marcus could see Roberto watching them from the table, his eyes bright with what might have been tears. Mr. Marcus? Maya said softly. Thank you for dancing with me. Thank you for letting me. Are you sad? She asked, suddenly. About Emma being far away? The question caught him off guard with its directness. He considered lying, giving her the adult answer that would smooth over the truth. Instead, he found himself being honest. Yeah, he said. I am sad. Maya nodded as if this made perfect sense. I get sad too. About Mom and Dad. Abuelo says it's okay to be sad sometimes. Your abuelo sounds very wise. He is. But I worry about him. His breathing gets wheezy, and sometimes he forgets to eat lunch. Marcus looked over at Roberto, seeing him with new eyes. The careful way he held himself, the slight tremor in his hands, the exhaustion around his eyes. How long has it been just you two? Marcus asked. Since Christmas. That's when we moved here. Abuelo's sister lives here, but she's in a place for old people now. She can't help anymore. 8 years old and already understanding that the adults in her life were fragile, limited, that she might need to take care of them instead of the other way around. The song ended, but neither of them moved to leave the dance floor. The DJ transitioned into something more upbeat, and Maya looked uncertain. We can sit down if you want. Marcus offered. Could we dance one more? I like this song. It was Count on Me by Bruno Mars, and around them, fathers and daughters were laughing and moving with more energy. Maya tried to copy what she saw, moving her shoulders and swaying to the beat. Marcus followed her lead, letting her dictate the movement. You're a good dancer, he said. You too. Emma's lucky. The words hit him unexpectedly. Why do you say that? Because you're a good dad. I can tell. Marcus felt something crack open in his chest. This little girl who barely knew him, who was dealing with losses he couldn't imagine, thought he was a good dad, when most days he felt like he was failing at everything that mattered. What makes you think that? He asked. Maya considered this seriously as they danced. You're here, she said finally. Even though Emma's not, that means you would have been here with her if you could. The simplicity of it, the clarity of a child's logic, made Marcus's eyes burn. He blinked hard, focusing on Maya's face, on the loosening bun and the too big dress, and the way she moved with unconscious grace. Plus, Maya added, you dance with girls who don't have their dads here. That's what good dads do. When the song ended, they walked back to the table where Roberto was waiting with 2 cups of punch. How was it, mija? He asked. Really good, abuelo. Mr. Marcus is a good dancer. I can see that, Roberto said, his eyes meeting Marcus's with something like gratitude. Maya loves to dance. Her mother used to put on music, and they would dance in the kitchen while making dinner. She's a natural, Marcus said, meaning it. Maya beamed, sliding into her chair and taking a sip of punch. The sugar made her more animated, and she began telling Marcus about her new school, her teacher, the hamster in her classroom named Mr. Whiskers who liked to sleep upside down. Marcus found himself genuinely engaged, asking questions, laughing at her observations. Roberto watched them both with growing warmth, occasionally adding details or gentle corrections. Mr. Marcus, Maya said suddenly, do you think Emma would like me? The question was so hopeful, so vulnerable, that Marcus had to swallow hard before answering. I think Emma would love you, he said honestly. You remind me of her, actually. She's brave and kind and funny, just like you. Maybe we could be friends. When she comes to visit. Marcus felt Roberto's eyes on him, a question there. He realized Maya was assuming Emma would be back, that this separation was temporary. The hope in her voice made him want to promise things he couldn't deliver. Maybe, he said carefully. That would be nice. The DJ announced that the last dance would begin soon, 1,000 years, for all the fathers and daughters. Around them, families began gathering their things, fathers helping daughters with sweaters and small purses. "Would you like to dance the last dance?" Marcus asked Maya. She nodded eagerly, then paused, looking at her grandfather. "Abuelo, will you be okay?" "I'll be fine, Mia. Go dance." But Marcus could see the fatigue in Roberto's face, the way he leaned heavily on his cane. An idea began forming. "Actually," Marcus said, "what if we all dance together? There's room." Roberto shook his head. "Oh no, I couldn't. These old bones." "We don't have to move much," Marcus said. "Just sway a little. Maya, what do you think? Want to dance with both of us?" Maya's face lit up. "Yes. Come on, Abuelo. Please?" Roberto looked between them, his resistance crumbling in the face of his granddaughter's excitement. Slowly, carefully, he stood, accepting Marcus's steadying hand. They made their way to the dance floor, Roberto moving slowly but determined. Maya positioned herself between them, taking both their hands. Marcus kept one eye on Roberto, ready to catch him if needed. As the music began, they swayed gently, Maya giggling as she felt surrounded by protection. Roberto's breathing was labored, but his smile was genuine. Other families around them smiled at the sight, 3 generations bound together by temporary love and permanent need. "This is perfect," Maya whispered. Marcus looked at Roberto over Maya's head, seeing his own emotion reflected in the older man's eyes. For just a moment, they weren't strangers brought together by circumstance. They were family, cobbled together by loneliness and generosity and the simple human need for connection. When the song ended, Roberto sat down heavily, but his eyes were bright. "Thank you," he said to Marcus. "Both of you, tonight was special." As families began to leave, Marcus helped them gather their things. Maya had grown quiet again, the excitement wearing off as the reality of going home settled in. "Mr. Marcus?" she said as they walked toward the exit. "Could we be friends? Like real friends?" Marcus looked at Roberto, who nodded slightly. "I'd like that very much," Marcus said. Maya smiled, then impulsively hugged him around the waist. Marcus hugged her back, feeling how small she was, how much trust she was placing in a man she'd just met. "Maybe you could come have dinner with us sometime," Roberto said quietly. "Maya's been practicing making her father's scrambled eggs." "I'd love that," Marcus said, and meant it. As they reached the parking lot, Maya turned back to him. "Mr. Marcus? I'm glad you came tonight, even though Emma couldn't." "Me too, Maya." "Me too." He watched them walk to an old Honda Civic, Roberto moving carefully, Maya staying close to his side. She waved from the passenger window as they drove away, her small hand pressed against the glass. Marcus stood alone in the parking lot, keys in his hand, feeling something he hadn't felt in months. Not exactly happiness. The ache of Emma's absence was still there, sharp and persistent, but something like purpose, like maybe there was room in his broken life for other kinds of love. 3 days later, Marcus found himself standing outside Roosevelt Elementary at 3:15 p.m., holding a paper bag containing chocolate chip cookies from the bakery on 5th Street. He'd driven by twice before finally parking, second-guessing himself with each pass. Maya had mentioned she walked home alone. The school bell rang, and children poured out of the building like water from a broken dam. Marcus scanned the crowd, looking for a navy backpack and carefully braided hair. He spotted her near the flagpole, walking slowly, her backpack dragging slightly behind her. "Maya!" She turned, her face lighting up when she saw him. "Mr. Marcus, what are you doing here?" "I was in the neighborhood," he lied smoothly. "Thought maybe you'd like to walk home together, if that's okay." Maya's smile was answer enough. She adjusted her backpack and fell into step beside him. "How did you know what time school ended?" "Lucky guess?" They walked in comfortable silence for a block before Maya spoke again. "Abuelo wasn't feeling good this morning. His breathing was all wheezy, and he couldn't walk me to school." Marcus felt a tightness in his chest. "Is he okay now?" "I think so. Mrs. Chen from next door checked on him after I left. She's nice, but she doesn't speak much English. And Abuelo's English gets confused when he's tired. 8 years old, and managing her grandfather's health care, navigating language barriers, walking herself to and from school. Marcus wondered what other responsibilities had been quietly placed on her small shoulders. "These are for you and your grandfather," he said, handing her the bag. Maya peeked inside, her eyes widening. "Cookies. Abuelo loves cookies, but the doctor says he shouldn't eat too many sweets. But maybe just one would be okay?" "Maybe just one," Marcus agreed. They turned onto Maple Street, a quiet residential area with small houses and chain-link fences. Maya's house was a pale yellow rental with a postage stamp front yard and a wheelchair ramp that looked recently installed. "That's new," Maya said, following his gaze to the ramp. "Mrs. Chen's son built it last weekend. Abuelo pretends he doesn't need it, but I saw him using it yesterday when he thought I wasn't looking." She opened the front door with a key she wore on a lanyard around her neck. "Abuelo? I'm home, and I brought a friend." The living room was small but tidy, with a hospital bed positioned near the window and a nebulizer machine on a card table. Roberto was sitting in a recliner, oxygen tubes in his nose, but he smiled when he saw them. "Marcus, my friend." What a nice surprise. His voice was thinner than it had been at the dance, his breathing more labored. Maya immediately went to him, checking the oxygen machine with practiced efficiency. "Mr. Marcus brought cookies," she announced. "Good ones from a real bakery." "That was very thoughtful," Roberto said, gesturing for Marcus to sit on the couch. "Maya, put the cookies in the kitchen for after dinner." Maya disappeared with the bag, and Marcus could hear her moving around, putting away her backpack, starting what sounded like homework at the kitchen table. "She's a good girl," Roberto said quietly. "Too good maybe, too grown up." "How are you feeling?" Marcus asked. Roberto shrugged, a gesture that took more effort than it should have. "Some days better than others. Today is not a better day." "Have you seen a doctor recently?" "Next week. Maya has to miss school to take me. The buses don't run out to the medical center and—" He gestured helplessly at his condition. Marcus made a mental note. "What about other family? Friends who could help?" "My sister, she's in memory care now, very expensive. And our church friends, they're good people, but they have their own troubles. Everyone our age has troubles." From the kitchen came the sound of Maya humming while she worked, a Spanish lullaby that Roberto began humming along with. "Her mother used to sing that," Roberto said softly. While she cooked, Maya remembers everything about her mother. "How long has it been?" 18 months, cancer. Very fast, very cruel." Roberto's eyes closed briefly. "Maya's father, he wanted to come home, but the deployment. It's complicated. Military families, we learn to be flexible, but sometimes flexible breaks. So you stepped in. What else? She's family. She's all we have left of Carmen that was my daughter." Maya has her mother's eyes, her laugh. "When I'm with Maya, Carmen isn't completely gone." Marcus understood. It was the same reason he still paid for Emma's cell phone, still kept her room exactly as she'd left it. Love didn't know how to let go. "But I'm getting old," Roberto continued. "Sicker. And Maya, she tries to take care of me, makes me breakfast, reminds me to take my medicine, worries when I cough too much." "That's not a job for a little girl." "What will happen if—" Marcus left the question unfinished. "If I die?" Roberto's voice was matter-of-fact. "Maya goes into foster care until her father can get emergency leave, maybe months, maybe longer. She doesn't know this yet, but social services, they've already been asking questions." The weight of it settled on Marcus like a physical thing. This little girl who danced with him, who worried about her grandfather's breathing, who made scrambled eggs and walked herself to school. She was one health crisis away from losing everything familiar in her world. "Abuelo?" Maya appeared in the doorway. "I finished my math homework. Want to check it?" "Of course, Maya. Bring it here." Maya settled on the arm of Roberto's chair, spreading her worksheet across his lap. Marcus watched them work together, Roberto's weathered finger-tracing problems, while Maya explained her thinking. The love between them was palpable, protective, tinged with the knowledge that time was running out. "Very good," Roberto said when they finished. "You're getting so smart. Smarter than your old grandfather. That's impossible, Maya said seriously. You know everything. After Maya returned to the kitchen to start her reading homework, Roberto turned back to Marcus. I don't tell you this to make you sad, he said. I tell you because Maya, she likes you. She talked about you all weekend after the dance. Mr. Marcus this, Mr. Marcus that. She needs good people in her life. People who will remember her when I'm gone. The request was unspoken but clear. Marcus felt the responsibility of it, heavy and precious at the same time. I'm not going anywhere, Marcus said quietly. Roberto nodded, his eyes bright with tears he was too proud to shed. Good, that's good. They sat in comfortable silence, listening to Maya read aloud to herself in the kitchen, her voice clear and confident as she worked through a chapter book that seemed advanced for her age. She reads above grade level, Roberto said with pride. Her mother was the same way, always with a book. Marcus's phone buzzed, a text message from Sarah. Emma wants to FaceTime at 7 p.m. your time, okay? He stared at the message, feeling the familiar mixture of anticipation and pain that came with these scheduled calls. Emma, trying to maintain connection across impossible distance. Sarah, managing logistics with the efficiency of a divorced parent. Of course, he texted back, looking forward to it. Good news? Roberto asked, noticing his expression. My daughter wants to video call tonight. We try to talk a few times a week. That must be hard. Seeing her but not being able to touch her. Marcus nodded. It was exactly that hard. Maya video calls with her father every Sunday, Roberto said. She gets so excited she can barely sleep the night before, but after, she's always a little sad. Missing him. It's better than nothing, Marcus said, but he wasn't sure he believed it. Is it? Sometimes I wonder if it makes the missing worse. Maya appeared again, this time with a glass of water and Roberto's evening medications laid out on a small tray. Time for your pills, abuelo, she said gently. Roberto took them obediently, Maya watching to make sure he swallowed each one. The role reversal was heartbreaking, the child caring for the adult with practiced competence. There, Maya said when he finished. All done. Now you should rest before dinner. What are we having for dinner? Marcus asked. Scrambled eggs, Maya said proudly. My specialty. Want to stay? I make really good ones. Marcus looked at Roberto, who nodded encouragingly. I'd love to, Marcus said. But only if you let me help. Maya's face lit up. Really? Dad always said cooking is more fun with helpers. In the kitchen, Marcus watched Maya move with surprising efficiency, gathering eggs and butter and cheese from the refrigerator. The kitchen was small but organized, with a step stool positioned strategically in front of the stove. First, you crack the eggs, Maya said, demonstrating with careful precision. Dad taught me to crack them on the counter, not the bowl, so the pieces don't fall in. Marcus followed her lead, trying to match her technique. She giggled when he got shell fragments in his bowl. It takes practice, she said kindly. I used to make lots of mistakes too. As they cooked together, Maya talked about her father, how he'd taught her to make these eggs before his deployment, how they'd practiced together until she could make them perfectly on her own. He said if I could make good scrambled eggs, I could take care of myself and abuelo, she said, stirring the pan with focused concentration. He was right. I make them for abuelo when he doesn't feel like eating. The eggs were perfect, fluffy and creamy, seasoned with just the right amount of salt and pepper. They ate at the small kitchen table, Roberto joining them despite his fatigue. These are the best scrambled eggs I've ever had, Marcus said honestly. Maya beamed. Dad's recipe. He says it's all about low heat and patience. Your father sounds like a wise man. He is. He knows about lots of things, but he doesn't know about being far away from the people you love. That part is hard for all of us. After dinner, Marcus helped Maya clean up while Roberto dozed in his chair. She was meticulous about washing dishes, drying them carefully before putting them away. I should go, Marcus said when they finished. Let your grandfather rest. Will you come back? Maya asked, the question careful, hopeful. If you want me to, I do. And I think Abuelo does too. He smiles more when you're here. Marcus felt that crack in his chest widening, making room for something new and fragile and necessary. Then I'll come back, he promised. As he was leaving, Roberto caught his arm. Thank you, the older man said quietly. For today. For being kind to her. Thank you for letting me. Maya, she doesn't have many friends her age. The move, losing her mother, worrying about mates made her old before her time. But with you, she's just a little girl again. That's a gift. Marcus drove home thinking about gifts and responsibility and the way loneliness could be shared until it became something else entirely. His apartment felt emptier than usual, the silence more pronounced after an evening filled with Maya's chatter and Roberto's gentle wisdom. At exactly 7 p.m. his phone rang. Emma's face filled the screen, older than he remembered, her hair longer, her smile a little more self-conscious. Hi, Dad. Hi, sweetheart. How are you? They talked for 20 minutes about school and friends and the rain in Portland. Emma showed him her latest art project, a watercolor painting of mountains that looked nothing like the flat landscape of their old home. I miss you, she said, as they were saying goodbye. I miss you too, baby. So much. Maybe I can visit soon? Mom says maybe for spring break. Maybe. We'll see. After she hung up, Marcus sat in his quiet apartment, feeling the weight of maybe and we'll see, and all the ways that love could be rationed across distance. But alongside the familiar ache was something new, memory of Maya's laugh, the feel of her small hand in his as they danced, the way she'd looked at him with trust and hope. He thought about Roberto's words. Maya needs good people in her life. People who will remember her when I'm gone. Marcus wasn't sure he was a good person. He wasn't sure he was qualified to be anyone's anchor when his own life felt so unmoored. But maybe that was exactly the point. Maybe broken people found each other not to be fixed, but to be less alone in their brokenness. He fell asleep that night thinking about scrambled eggs and the sound of Maya humming Spanish lullabies, about the way family could be chosen as well as born, about second chances disguised as first meetings. The call came at 2:17 a.m. on a Tuesday. Marcus fumbled for his phone in the dark, his heart already racing with the particular dread that came with middle-of-the-night calls. Maya's voice was small and scared on the other end. Mr. Marcus? I'm sorry to wake you up, but Abuelo can't breathe good and I don't know what to do. Marcus was already reaching for his clothes. Where are you, Maya? At home. I called 911, but they're not here yet. And Abuelo keeps trying to talk, but he can't. And his lips are turning blue. And I'm scared. Listen to me, okay? You did exactly the right thing calling 911. I'm coming over right now. Stay with your grandfather, but don't try to move him. Just hold his hand and tell him help is coming. Marcus threw on yesterday's clothes and ran to his car, Maya's frightened voice echoing in his head. The streets were empty at this hour, traffic lights blinking yellow in the darkness. He made the 15-minute drive to Maya's house in 8 minutes. The ambulance was already there, its red and blue lights painting the quiet neighborhood in urgent colors. Marcus found Maya sitting on the front steps in her pajamas, a neighbor, Mrs. Chen, sitting beside her with a blanket around Maya's shoulders. Mr. Marcus! Maya jumped up and ran to him, throwing her arms around his waist. She was shaking. It's okay, he said, holding her tight. You're okay. What happened? He couldn't breathe. He was making these scary sounds, and his medicine wasn't helping, and... Her words came out in a rush. 8 years of fear and responsibility spilling over. Through the open front door, Marcus could see paramedics working on Roberto, their movements efficient and practiced. One of them looked up and caught Marcus's eye, shaking his head slightly. Not good. Maya, Marcus said gently, your grandfather is very sick. The paramedics are going to take him to the hospital so the doctors can help him. Can I go with him? Marcus looked at Mrs. Chen, who spoke broken English but seemed to understand the situation. She shook her head sadly. No, sweetheart, children can't ride in ambulances. But I'll take you to the hospital, okay? We'll follow them. The paramedics wheeled Roberto out on a stretcher, an oxygen mask over his face. His eyes were closed, his skin gray in the harsh light of the ambulance. Maya started toward him, but Marcus caught her hand. "Abuelo," she called out. Roberto's eyes opened briefly, finding hers. He tried to lift his hand, a small wave, a goodbye, a blessing. Then the ambulance doors closed and they were gone, sirens wailing into the night. Maya stood frozen in the street, watching the red lights disappear around the corner. "Come on," Marcus said softly. "Let's get you dressed and go to the hospital." Mrs. Chen stayed with Maya while Marcus went inside to gather clothes in Maya's backpack. The living room still bore signs of the medical emergency, Roberto's oxygen tubes on the floor, his medications scattered across the coffee table, a glass of water knocked over and forgotten. Maya emerged from her bedroom wearing jeans and a sweater, her hair hastily braided. She looked impossibly young and impossibly old at the same time. "Will Abuelo be okay?" she asked as they drove to the hospital. Marcus wanted to lie, to give her the comfort of false hope. Instead, he found himself being honest. "I don't know, sweetheart. He's very sick, but the doctors will do everything they can to help him." Maya was quiet for the rest of the drive, staring out the window at the empty streets. At the hospital, they were directed to the cardiac unit waiting room, a sterile space with uncomfortable chairs and fluorescent lighting that made everyone look sick. "Family of Roberto Rodriguez?" A doctor approached them, a tired-looking woman in scrubs with kind eyes. Maya jumped up from her chair. "I'm his granddaughter. Is he okay?" The doctor looked uncertainly between Maya and Marcus. "Are you her father?" "I'm a family friend," Marcus said. "Maya's father is deployed overseas, and her grandfather is her legal guardian." "I see. Well, Maya, your grandfather is very sick. His heart isn't working properly, and his lungs are filled with fluid. We're doing everything we can to help him breathe better. Can I see him?" "Not right now. He's sleeping, and he has lots of machines helping him, but maybe later, okay?" After the doctor left, Maya curled up in her chair, making herself as small as possible. Marcus sat beside her, not sure what to do with his hands, what words might help. "I should have known," Maya said quietly. "He was breathing funny all day yesterday, but I thought it was just his regular breathing trouble. I should have called you, or Mrs. Chen, or somebody." "Maya, look at me." Marcus waited until she met his eyes. "This is not your fault. Do you understand me? Your grandfather is sick because he's sick, not because of anything you did or didn't do. But I'm supposed to take care of him. That's my job. You're 8 years old. Your job is to be 8 years old. It's not your job to be responsible for adult problems." Maya's face crumpled. "But if I'm not responsible, who is? There's nobody else." The truth of it hit Marcus like a physical blow. She was right. There was nobody else. This little girl had been carrying the weight of adult responsibility because there was no one else to carry it. "You're not alone anymore," Marcus said, the words coming out before he'd fully thought them through. "I'm here. We'll figure this out together." Maya looked at him with desperate hope. "Promise?" "I promise." They spent the rest of the night in the waiting room. Maya dozed fitfully against Marcus's shoulder while he made phone calls to Maya's school to explain her absence, to his own job to arrange emergency leave, to the hospital social worker who would inevitably need to be involved. At 6 a.m., the same doctor returned. Her expression told them everything before she spoke. "I'm sorry," she said gently. "Your grandfather's heart stopped about an hour ago. We tried everything, but he was just too sick. He's gone." Maya stared at her without speaking, as if the words were in a language she didn't understand. "Gone where?" she asked finally. "He died, sweetheart." "I'm so sorry." Maya looked at Marcus, her eyes wide and lost. "But he can't be gone. I need him. Who's going to take care of me?" Marcus felt something break open in his chestnut, the careful crack that had been widening over the past weeks, but a complete fracture that let all the light and pain in at once. "I am," he said without hesitation. "I'll take care of you. But you don't have to. I'm not your family." Marcus knelt in front of her chair, taking her small hands in his. "Maya, family isn't just about blood. Sometimes family is about choice, and I choose you. If you'll let me, I want to take care of you." Maya's composure finally shattered. She launched herself into his arms, sobbing against his chest with all the grief and fear and exhaustion she'd been holding back. Marcus held her tight, his own tears falling into her hair. "I want my mom," she cried. "I want my dad. I want a Bulow." "I know, baby, I know. Everyone leaves me, everyone dies or goes away. I'm not going anywhere," Marcus said fiercely. "I promise you, I'm not going anywhere." The next few hours were a blur of paperwork and phone calls and impossible decisions. The hospital social worker, a competent woman named Janet Reeves, explained the process with professional kindness. "Maya will need to be placed in emergency foster care while we contact her father and arrange for him to return," she said. "It could take several days, possibly weeks, depending on his deployment status." "What if I want to be her emergency placement?" Marcus asked. Janet looked surprised. "Are you a licensed foster parent?" "No, but—" "Then it's not possible. I'm sorry. We have procedures." Maya, who had been sitting quietly through these discussions, suddenly spoke up. "Mr. Marcus promised to take care of me. He promised." "I know, honey," Janet said gently, "but there are rules about these things, legal requirements. I don't care about rules." Maya's voice rose, 8 years of loss and fear spilling over. "I want to stay with Mr. Marcus. He's the only family I have left." Marcus felt his heart breaking and healing simultaneously. This child, who had lost everything, was choosing him, trusting him, claiming him as family in the same way he had claimed her. "Let me make some calls," he said to Janet. "Please, give me a few hours to figure something out." Janet looked between them, seeing something that made her soften slightly. "A few hours. But Maya will need placement by tonight." Marcus spent the afternoon on the phone with lawyers, social workers, and anyone else who might have answers. The system, he learned, was designed to protect children, but not necessarily to keep them with people who loved them. Finally, he called his sister Rebecca in Chicago, a family law attorney who specialized in adoption and foster care. "Marcus, what you're describing is complicated," she said after he explained the situation. "Emergency custody usually goes to blood relatives or licensed foster families. But what? There might be a way. If Maya's father consents, if you can prove you have a relationship with the child, if you're willing to undergo expedited background checks and home studies. It's a long shot, but it's possible." "What do I need to do?" "First, we need to reach Maya's father. Then we need to move fast." It took 6 hours to track down Staff Sergeant Miguel Rodriguez through military channels. When they finally connected via video call, Marcus found himself facing a man who looked like an older version of Maya, the same dark eyes, the same serious expression. "You're the man who danced with my daughter," Miguel said. It wasn't a question. "Yes, sir. She told me about you when we talked last Sunday, said you were kind to her and Roberto. Your daughter is an amazing little girl. Your father-in-law was a good man. I'm sorry for your loss." Miguel's composure cracked slightly. "Roberto raised my wife. He was the only father figure I ever knew. And now Maya." His voice broke. "I want to help," Marcus said. "If you'll let me." "Why? You barely know her." Marcus thought about how to explain the recognition he'd felt when he saw Maya sitting alone at the dance. The way she'd trusted him immediately, the feeling that they were two people who understood loss in the same fundamental way. "Sometimes," he said finally, "family finds you when you need it most. Maya needs someone now. And I need her too." Miguel was quiet for a long moment, studying Marcus through the screen. "My emergency leave will take at least 2 weeks to process," he said finally. "Maybe longer. Maya can't be in the system that long. It would destroy her." "I know. If I agree to this, if I give temporary custody to a man I've never met, I need to know you understand what you're signing up for. Maya isn't just any 8-year-old. She's been through trauma. She has nightmares. She worries about everything. She's been taking care of adults since her mother died. I understand. Do you? Do you understand that she'll test you?" That she'll try to push you away because she's tired of people leaving? Do you understand that she's scared to love anyone else because everyone she's loved has either died or been taken away from her? Marcus thought about Emma, about the way his own daughter had pulled back emotionally after the divorce, protecting herself from more loss. Yes, he said quietly. I understand. Miguel nodded slowly. Okay, let's do this. The paperwork took until midnight. Emergency custody orders, temporary guardianship forms, background check authorizations, a small mountain of legal documents that would allow Marcus to take Maya home. Maya had fallen asleep in the hospital waiting room, curled up across two chairs with her head on Marcus's jacket. She woke when Janet gently shook her shoulder. Maya, we have good news. You're going to stay with Mr. Marcus while we wait for your dad to come home. Maya sat up, blinking in confusion. Really? For real? For real, Marcus said. If you want to. Maya launched herself at him again, wrapping her arms around his neck. Yes. Yes, I want to. As they walked out of the hospital in the early morning darkness, Maya slipped her hand into his. Mr. Marcus? Yeah? Are you scared? Marcus considered lying, giving her the adult answer that would make her feel safer. Instead, he chose honesty. Yeah, I'm scared. Are you? Yeah, but maybe it's okay to be scared together. Maybe it is. They drove through the empty streets toward Marcus's apartment. Two people who had lost everything learning to trust that they might have found something worth keeping. In the rearview mirror, Marcus could see Maya fighting sleep, afraid to close her eyes, afraid that when she opened them, this too might have been a dream. It's okay to sleep, he said softly. I'll be here when you wake up. Promise? I promise. By the time they reached his apartment building, Maya was asleep in the back seat, her face peaceful for the first time since he'd known her. Marcus carried her inside, her head heavy on his shoulder, her breathing deep and trusting. He tucked her into his bed, the only bed in his small apartment, and pulled a chair beside it, settling in to keep watch. Outside, the sun was beginning to rise, painting the walls with soft golden light. Maya stirred once, reaching out in her sleep. Marcus took her hand, and she settled, anchored by his presence. For the first time in months, Marcus felt something like peace. Not happiness, there was too much grief and uncertainty for that, but peace. The quiet certainty that he was exactly where he needed to be, doing exactly what he was meant to do. Family, he thought, watching Maya sleep. Sometimes it chose you. Maya had been living with Marcus for 6 days when Emma called. It was a Saturday morning, and Marcus was teaching Maya how to make pancakes, real ones, from scratch, not the mix Roberto had relied on. She stood on a step stool at the counter, measuring flour with the serious concentration she brought to everything, when his phone rang. Emma's face filled the screen, and for a moment, Marcus saw his two worlds colliding in a way that made his chest tight. Hi, Dad. What are you? Emma stopped mid-sentence, noticing Maya in the background. Who's that? Marcus felt Maya freeze beside him, her eyes wide as she looked between him and the phone. Emma, this is Maya. Maya, this is my daughter Emma. Maya wiped her flour-covered hands on her shirt and came closer to the phone, shy but curious. Hi, she said softly. Emma stared at them both, her expression unreadable. Dad, what's going on? Marcus realized he should have prepared for this moment, should have found a way to explain the situation before Emma discovered it accidentally. But the past week had been a whirlwind of emergency custody hearings, school enrollment, and learning how to navigate Maya's grief while managing his own sudden transition into single fatherhood. Maya's staying with me for a while, Marcus said carefully. Her grandfather passed away, and her father is overseas with the military. She needed somewhere safe to stay. Oh, Emma's voice was small. I'm sorry about your grandfather, Maya. Thank you, Maya said. He was really nice. You would have liked him. An awkward silence settled over the call. Marcus could see the questions in Emma's eyes, the confusion and something that might have been hurt. Well, Emma said finally, I should go. Mom wants to take me shopping. Emma, wait. It's okay, Dad. I'll talk to you later. The call ended abruptly, leaving Marcus staring at his blank phone screen. Maya was watching him with worried eyes. "Did I make her mad?" Maya asked. "No, sweetheart. She's just surprised. I should have told her about you before now." Maya nodded, but Marcus could see her withdrawing slightly, the way she did when she felt like she'd caused problems. It was a response born from months of trying to be invisible, trying not to be a burden. "Maya," Marcus said gently, "look at me. You didn't do anything wrong. Emma's not mad at you, she's confused about the situation. That's my fault, not yours. But the damage was done." Maya spent the rest of the morning quieter than usual, second-guessing every interaction, trying to make herself smaller. That evening, after Maya had gone to bed, Marcus called Sarah. "So," Sarah said without preamble, "Emma tells me you're fostering a little girl." "It's complicated." "I'm sure it is." "Marcus, what are you thinking? You're barely holding your own life together, and now you're taking on someone else's child?" The criticism stung because it echoed his own doubts. Maya needed help. I was the only one who could provide it. There are systems for this. Professional foster families, people who are trained. People who don't know her. People who would see her as a case file instead of a little girl who just lost the only family she had left. Sarah was quiet for a moment. "I'm not saying you don't have good intentions, Marcus. But Emma is struggling with this whole situation. She feels like you're replacing her. That's not what this is. Isn't it? Think about it from her perspective. She moves away, and suddenly there's another little girl living in her father's house, sleeping in his bed, making pancakes in his kitchen. What is she supposed to think?" Marcus felt the weight of impossible choices settling on his shoulders. How could he explain that he wasn't trying to replace Emma, that Maya wasn't a substitute daughter, but a different kind of need entirely? How could he make Sarah understand that sometimes life demanded you respond to crisis even when the timing was terrible? "I need to talk to Emma," he said. "Maybe you should think about what's best for everyone involved first." After Sarah hung up, Marcus sat in his quiet living room, watching Maya's door for signs of movement. She'd been having nightmares since Roberto's death, not every night, but often enough that Marcus had learned to sleep lightly, ready to comfort her when the dreams became too much. At 2 a.m., he heard her crying. Marcus knocked softly before entering her room. Maya was sitting up in bed, her face wet with tears, clutching a framed photo of her parents that she kept on the nightstand. "Bad dream?" he asked. Maya nodded, scooting over to make room for him on the edge of the bed. "Want to talk about it?" "Abuelo was in it," she said quietly. "But he was mad at me. He said I forgot about him too fast, that I was supposed to be sad longer." Marcus felt his heart break a little more. "Maya, grief isn't something you do wrong. There's no right amount of time to be sad. But what if I forget him? What if I get happy here with you, and I forget what he sounded like or how he smelled like coffee and Old Spice? Do you think loving me means you love your grandfather less?" Maya considered this seriously. "No, but maybe he thinks that." "I think," Marcus said carefully, "that your grandfather loved you so much that all he wanted was for you to be safe and happy, even if that happiness came from someone else." "Do you really think so?" "I know so. He told me, remember? He said you needed good people in your life." Maya curled against his side, and Marcus held her until her breathing evened out and she fell back asleep. But he lay awake for hours afterward, thinking about Sarah's words, about Emma's hurt expression, about the impossible mathematics of love and loss and responsibility. The next morning brought a phone call that changed everything. "Mr. Chen, this is Staff Sergeant Rodriguez. I have news." Marcus stepped out onto his small balcony, leaving Maya watching cartoons in the living room. "How are you, Sergeant Rodriguez? Please, call me Miguel." "And I'm good. Better than good, actually. My emergency leave has been approved. I'll be home in 3 days." Marcus felt something twist in his stomach relief, and loss tangled together in a way that made it hard to breathe. "That's wonderful news. Maya will be so happy." "I hope so. Marcus, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me. How is she really doing?" Marcus thought about Maya's nightmares, her fierce independence, the way she still made scrambled eggs for two people out of habit. He thought about her laughter when they played board games, the careful way she'd rearranged his apartment to make space for her few belongings, the trust she'd placed in him despite every reason to protect her heart. "She's grieving," he said honestly, "but she's strong. Stronger than any 8-year-old should have to be. She's an amazing kid, Miguel." "I know she is. Roberto raised her well. Carmen would be proud of the little girl she's becoming." "What happens now?" Marcus asked, though he already knew the answer. "Now I come home and try to be the father she needs. Try to figure out how to rebuild our family when so much of it is gone." "And Maya?" Miguel was quiet for a moment. "She'll come with me, of course, back to San Antonio, where we have family, where she belongs." Marcus knew it was the right answer. Maya belonged with her father, with her blood family, with people who shared her history and her culture and her loss. But knowing it was right didn't make it hurt less. "She'll miss you," Miguel said softly. "She talks about you every time we speak. You've been good to her, Marcus. More than good. She's been good to me, too." After the call ended, Marcus stood on his balcony, looking out at the city he'd lived in for 5 years, the place that had felt so empty after Emma left. Now it would be empty again, but differently. Now he would know what it felt like to make pancakes alone, to listen for footsteps that wouldn't come, to miss someone who had never really been his to keep. "Mr. Marcus?" Maya appeared in the sliding door, her hair messy from lying on the couch. "Who was on the phone?" Marcus turned to face her, seeing her with new eyes, memorizing the way the morning light caught in her dark hair, the way she twisted her fingers when she was nervous, the scar on her chin from falling off her bike when she was 6. "Your dad," he said gently. "He's coming home." Maya's face went through a dozen emotions in the space of seconds: joy, relief, excitement, and then, surprisingly, something that looked like panic. "When?" 3 days. "Oh." She stood in the doorway, processing this information. "That's good. That's really good." But her voice was small, uncertain. "Maya, it's okay to have mixed feelings about this. You can be happy to see your dad and sad about leaving here at the same time." "Is that what you have? Mixed feelings?" Marcus knelt down so they were at eye level. "Yeah, I'm happy that your dad is coming home because I know how much you've missed him. But I'm sad because I'm going to miss you. Will you forget about me?" The question was so quiet, he almost missed it. "Never," Marcus said fiercely. "I will never forget about you. You changed my life, Maya. You showed me what it means to be brave, to take care of people you love, to keep going, even when everything feels impossible." Maya launched herself into his arms, holding him tight. "I don't want to leave you," she whispered into his neck. "I know. But sometimes the right thing and the easy thing aren't the same thing." They spent the next 3 days in a strange kind of suspended animation, trying to make normal routines feel normal when everything was about to change. Maya helped Marcus make dinner each night, carefully writing down the recipes in a small notebook he'd bought her. They went to the park and fed ducks, visited the library, had ice cream for breakfast because Maya said she'd never done that before, and wanted to try everything while she could. On Maya's last morning, she woke up early and climbed into bed with Marcus, something she hadn't done since her first night. "Mr. Marcus?" "Thank you for keeping your promise." "Which promise?" "That you wouldn't go anywhere. Even though I'm the one leaving, you didn't go anywhere." Marcus felt tears prick his eyes. Even at 8, Maya understood the difference between leaving and being left. "I'll always be here if you need me," he said. "No matter what. Even if I call you in the middle of the night like that first time? Especially then." Miguel arrived at 2 p.m., wearing civilian clothes and carrying a duffel bag. He was taller than Marcus had expected, with kind eyes and his daughter's serious expression. Maya ran to him without hesitation, and Marcus watched them hold each other with the desperate relief of people who had been separated by forces beyond their control. "Dad, this is Mr. Marcus," Maya said, when they finally broke apart. "He's been taking really good care of me." Miguel extended his hand, and Marcus shook it, feeling the strength in his grip. "I can never repay you for what you've done," Miguel said quietly. "You don't need to. Maya did more for me than I did for her." They sat in Marcus's living room while Maya showed her father around the small apartment, pointing out where she'd slept, where they cooked together, the spot on the couch where they watched movies. Miguel listened with the attention of a man trying to understand a chapter of his daughter's life he hadn't been there for. "She seems happy," Miguel said to Marcus, while Maya packed her few belongings. "She is. But she's been waiting for you to come home." I know, and I hate that she had to wait at all. I hate that she's been through all this without me." "You're here now, that's what matters." When it was time to go, Maya hugged Marcus so tight he could barely breathe. "I love you, Mr. Marcus," she whispered. "I love you too, Maya, so much. Will you stay in touch?" Miguel asked. "I know it might be hard, but Maya would like that, and so would I." Marcus nodded, not trusting his voice. As they drove away, Maya pressed her face to the back window, waving until the car turned the corner and disappeared from sight. Marcus stood on his front steps for a long time after they were gone, feeling the silence of his apartment like a physical weight. On the kitchen counter, Maya had left him a picture of the two of them dancing, with "Thank you for being my family" written in her careful handwriting across the bottom. That evening, his phone rang. Emma's face appeared on the screen, her expression softer than it had been the last time they talked. "Hi, Dad." "Hi, sweetheart. Mom told me about Maya. About her grandfather dying and her dad coming home. I'm sorry I was weird when we talked before." "You weren't weird. You were surprised." "I was jealous," Emma said quietly. "Which was stupid because she needed help and you were helping her. But I was jealous that another little girl got to live with you when I couldn't." Marcus felt his heart crack open again. "Emma." "It's okay, Dad. I understand now. Mom explained it better. And I'm proud of you for taking care of her." "You are?" "Yeah. It's what good dads do. And you're a good dad." After they hung up, Marcus sat in his quiet apartment, surrounded by the ghost echoes of Maya's presence. Her step stool still sat by the kitchen counter. A few of her library books were stacked on the coffee table. The smell of her strawberry shampoo lingered in the bathroom. He thought about the father-daughter dance, about the lonely man he'd been just weeks ago. He thought about Maya sitting in the corner, about Roberto's gentle wisdom, about the way family could bloom in the most unexpected places. His phone buzzed with a text message from an unknown number. "This is Maya. Dad got me a phone so we can stay in touch. Thank you for everything. I miss you already." Marcus smiled through his tears as he typed back. "I miss you too. Sweet dreams, Maya." "I love you." The response came immediately. "Love you too. Always." Outside his window, the city continued its eternal rhythm, people coming and going, families forming and reforming, love flowing like water into whatever containers would hold it. Marcus understood now that some gifts were meant to be temporary, that love didn't require permanence to be real. Maya had come into his life like a shooting star, brilliant, transformative, gone too soon but leaving light in her wake. She had taught him that being a father wasn't about DNA or custody arrangements or having the right answers. It was about showing up, staying present, choosing love even when love meant letting go. He would always be grateful for their borrowed time, their improvised family, their brief and perfect season of taking care of each other. And somewhere in San Antonio, a little girl was falling asleep knowing that in this complicated world, she had people who would always consider her family not because they had to, but because they chose to. Some promises, Marcus realized, were kept not by staying but by loving. And love, once given freely, never really ended. It just found new ways to bloom. 6 months later, Marcus stood in the arrivals gate at Portland International Airport, holding a sign that read, "Emma Chen," in careful block letters. His hands were sweating despite the air conditioning, and he'd checked his watch 17 times in the past hour. Spring break. 2 weeks. The first time Emma would be staying with him since the move, the first time she'd see his life as it was now rather than as it had been. When she emerged from the gate, wheeling a purple suitcase behind her, Marcus barely recognized her. She'd grown at least 2 inches, her hair was shorter, and she moved with a new kind of confidence that spoke of independence earned through adaptation. "Dad!" She ran to him, and for a moment she was his little girl again, all arms and legs and enthusiastic hugs. "Look at you," he said, holding her at arm's length. "You're practically a teenager." "I'm only 9, Dad." "Only 9? That's ancient." Emma rolled her eyes, but she was smiling. As they walked toward baggage claim, she chattered about the flight, about the woman sitting next to her who was afraid of turbulence, about the tiny pretzels that weren't nearly enough food for a 3-hour journey. "So," Emma said as they waited for her larger suitcase, "how's Maya?" The question was casual, but Marcus could hear the careful curiosity underneath it. Over the past months, Maya had become a regular part of their phone conversations, Emma asking about her, Marcus sharing stories, both of them navigating this new configuration of their relationship. "She's good, really good. Her dad got stationed at Fort Hood, so they're not too far away. We video call every week, and they visited last month." "Is she coming while I'm here?" Marcus studied Emma's face, looking for signs of jealousy or resentment, but found only genuine interest. "Would you like her to?" Emma considered this seriously, the same way she approached all important decisions. "Yeah, I think I would." That evening, as Emma settled into the guest room, Marcus had finally set up properly, complete with a twin bed, a small desk, and walls painted the soft blue she'd requested. She asked the question he'd been expecting. "Dad, do you love Maya more than me?" Marcus sat down on the edge of her bed, choosing his words carefully. "Love isn't a competition, Em. It's not a pie where if I give someone else a piece, there's less for you. I love you and Maya differently, but not more or less." "How differently?" "Well, I love you as my daughter. You're part of me, part of my history, part of my future. You're the little girl I taught to ride a bike and helped with homework and worried about when you had nightmares." Emma nodded, processing this. "And I love Maya as someone who needed me when everything in her world was falling apart. Someone who taught me that family isn't just about who you're related to, but about who you choose to show up for." "So we're both your daughters, but in different ways?" "Exactly." Emma was quiet for a moment then. "I think that's okay. Actually, I think it's kind of cool that Maya has you when her dad can't be there." Marcus felt a familiar tightness in his chest, pride and love and amazement at the wisdom children could carry. "I'm proud of you, Emma, for understanding that, for being generous with your heart. Maya lost her mom and her grandfather. That's way worse than having divorced parents." The matter-of-fact way she said it reminded Marcus of Maya's own directness, the way both girls had learned to navigate loss with a clarity that adults often struggled to find. They video-called Maya that night, Emma shy at first but gradually warming up as Maya showed her around her new bedroom in San Antonio, introduced her to her father who was temporarily home between deployments, and demonstrated the proper technique for making the scrambled eggs that had become her signature dish. "You should teach Emma how to make them when I visit," Maya said through the screen. "When you visit?" Emma looked at Marcus. "Maya and Miguel are coming for Memorial Day weekend," Marcus explained. "If that's okay with you?" Emma's face lit up. "Yes, we can show her around, take her to the good park, maybe go to that ice cream place you're always talking about." As the call ended, Marcus watched Emma wave goodbye to Maya with genuine warmth and felt something settle in his chest that had been restless for months. The next day they drove to Emma's old elementary school so she could visit her former teachers. In the car, Emma asked questions about Maya's life, what grade she was in, what her favorite subjects were, whether she still had nightmares about her grandfather. "She does sometimes," Marcus said. "But they're getting better. She's in counseling, which helps. And her dad being home more has made a huge difference." "Do you miss her when she's not here?" Marcus considered how to answer honestly without making Emma feel guilty for living so far away. "Yes," he said finally. "But I miss you too, when you're not here. Missing people you love is just part of loving them. That's kind of sad." "It is, but it's also kind of beautiful. It means the people we love matter enough to miss." They spent the week doing Emma things, visiting her favorite restaurant, going to movies, shopping for clothes that fit her new taller self. But Marcus also found himself sharing Maya stories, showing Emma photos from their brief time together, explaining traditions they'd started that Emma might want to continue. On Thursday, Emma asked if they could go to Jefferson Elementary. "Why?" Marcus asked. "I want to see where you and Maya met, where you danced together." The gym looked different in the afternoon light, smaller and more ordinary without the decorations and the crowd. Emma walked around the space, trying to picture it as Marcus described that night. "You were really brave," she said finally. "How do you mean?" "Going to a father-daughter dance without a daughter. That must have been really hard." Marcus thought about that lonely man who'd stood in the doorway 6 months ago, unsure whether to stay or leave, carrying his grief like a weight he couldn't put down. "It was," he admitted, "but if I hadn't gone, I never would have met Maya. And then what would have happened to her? Someone else would have helped her. There are good people in the world, Em. Sometimes it just takes a while to find each other." Emma nodded thoughtfully. "I'm glad you found each other. And I'm glad you didn't replace me with her." "I could never replace you. You're irreplaceable. So is Maya. So is Maya." On Emma's last day, they drove to the airport early and had breakfast at a terminal restaurant, stretching out their time together as long as possible. "Dad?" Emma said, as they waited for her boarding call. "Yeah? When Maya visits, will you take pictures? Like lots of them?" "Of course." "Why?" "Because I want to see what our family looks like when we're all together." Our family. The phrase hit Marcus with unexpected force. "I'd like that too," he said. As Emma's flight was called, she hugged him tight, then pulled back to look at him seriously. "Take care of Maya when she's here," she said. "And take care of yourself when we're both gone." "I will. You take care of yourself too." "I love you, Dad." "I love you too, Em. So much." Marcus watched her plane taxi away from the gate, feeling the familiar ache of separation, but also something new, a sense of completeness that hadn't been there before. His family had expanded in ways he'd never expected, love stretching across state lines and blood relations and conventional definitions of what family should look like. That evening, alone in his apartment, Marcus called Maya. "Mr. Marcus," her face filled the screen, bright with excitement. "How was Emma's visit?" "Really good. She's excited to meet you in person next month." "Me too. Dad says we can stay for 4 whole days. Is that too long?" "There's no such thing as too long when it comes to family visiting." Maya beamed at the word family, and Marcus realized that was exactly what they were, a chosen family. Complicated and spread out and unconventional, but real nonetheless. After they hung up, Marcus made himself dinner and ate it at his small table, no longer feeling the weight of solitude that had pressed on him for so many months. Tomorrow he would go to work, come home to his quiet apartment, maybe call his sister or go for a run or read a book. Normal life. Ordinary moments. But underneath the ordinary was something extraordinary, the knowledge that he was loved by 2 remarkable children who had taught him that fathers weren't just defined by DNA or custody arrangements, but by showing up, staying present, choosing love over and over again. On Memorial Day weekend, Miguel and Maya arrived as promised. Marcus watched from his window as they parked in front of his building, Maya practically bouncing in her seat with excitement. When she rang his buzzer, her voice through the intercom was breathless with joy. "Mr. Marcus, we're here! We're really here!" Maya launched herself at him when he opened the door, and Marcus caught her easily, spinning her around the way he used to spin Emma. "Look how tall you've gotten," he said, setting her down. "You're practically a giant." "I'm not a giant," Maya giggled. "But I did grow 2 inches since Christmas." Miguel appeared behind her, carrying overnight bags and wearing the patient smile of a father who'd been listening to excited chatter for the entire 5-hour drive. "Thank you for having us," Miguel said, shaking Marcus's hand. Maya's been counting down the days. Over the weekend, Marcus watched his small apartment transform into something like a command center for childhood joy. Maya and Emma, connected now by video calls and shared stories, fell into easy friendship despite the 600 miles that usually separated them. They cooked together, played board games, argued good-naturedly about which movie to watch. On Sunday afternoon, while Miguel napped on the couch and the girls built an elaborate fort out of couch cushions and blankets, Emma made an announcement. "Maya, you should come visit me in Portland this summer. Mom said it would be okay if you wanted to." Maya's eyes went wide. "Really? You want me to?" "Yeah. We could go to the coast, see the ocean. And there's this really cool science museum that has hands-on exhibits." "Dad?" Maya turned to Miguel, who was pretending to sleep but had obviously been listening. "If Mr. Marcus thinks it's a good idea, and if your friend's mother is okay with it, then yes, we can figure something out." That evening, as they walked to the ice cream shop Emma had insisted Maya needed to experience, Marcus found himself falling behind the group slightly, watching Miguel and the two girls ahead of him. Maya was in the middle, holding both Emma's hand and her father's, chattering about something that was making them all laugh. This was his family now, not the traditional nuclear unit he'd once imagined, but something more complex and beautiful. A father and daughter learning to rebuild their relationship after trauma and separation. Another father and daughter maintaining connection across distance and divorce. And in the center, a little girl who had taught them all that love was not a finite resource but something that grew when shared. Later that night, after Maya and Miguel had gone to their hotel and the apartment was quiet again, Marcus sat on his balcony looking out at the city lights. His phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. Emma called. She had a wonderful time. Thank you for including Maya in her visit. It means a lot to her to be part of something bigger. Another text, this one from Miguel. Thank you for everything this weekend. Maya is so happy. You've given her something I couldn't. The knowledge that she has people who choose to love her. That's a gift I can never repay. And finally, a text from Maya herself. Mr. Marcus, this was the best weekend ever. I love our weird family. Can't wait for Portland with Emma. Marcus smiled, typing back. I love our weird family too. Sleep tight, Maya. Sweet dreams. As he prepared for bed, Marcus thought about the man he'd been 6 months ago, lost, lonely, carrying his grief like a stone in his chest. That man couldn't have imagined this life, this joy, this sense of purpose that came from being necessary to people who weren't required to need him but chose to anyway. He thought about Roberto's words from that first night. Maya needs good people in her life. People who will remember her when I'm gone. Marcus had remembered her. But more than that, he had chosen to be remembered by her, to let her love change him, to trust that family could be built as well as born. In his bedroom, Marcus looked at the framed photo Maya had given him, a picture of all three of them from her visit last month, arms around each other, grinning at the camera. Beside it was a drawing Emma had made during her spring break visit, showing their weird family, as Maya had called it, stick figures holding hands across what looked like a map of the United States, with hearts drawn in the spaces between them. These were his children, not both in the same way, but both completely, both permanently. Love had found a way to expand rather than divide, to include rather than replace. As Marcus drifted off to sleep, he thought about next weekend's plans, about summer visits and video calls and all the ordinary moments that made up a life lived in love. He thought about the father-daughter dance that had started it all, about the courage it had taken to stay in that gym when everything in him wanted to run. Sometimes the bravest thing you could do was remain open to joy when your heart was broken. Sometimes the greatest gifts came disguised as other people's emergencies. Sometimes family chose you when you needed it most, and the wisest thing you could do was choose them back. In the morning, he would wake up alone in his quiet apartment, but he would not be lonely. He would be a man beloved by two extraordinary children, a father in all the ways that mattered, a keeper of promises made and received. He would be home.